Since the mid-1970s, feminist theory and criticism have worked to expose systems of oppression within the art world, articulate relationships between sexual difference and visual culture, and empower women artists with the theoretical language necessary to insert themselves as cultural producers. Influential writers such as Griselda Pollock, Lucy Lepard, and Mary Kelly caution feminist artists against launching critiques through self-representation. In What's Wrong with Images of Women, Pollock argues that such work often consolidates rather than ruptures sexist signification due to the insufficiency of theory available to prevent misinterpretation. Hannah Wilkie, who you see here, was a frequent target for Lepard and others who found her embodiment of ideal female beauty to lack proper critical distance. Your feminist art may be different from pornography, but no one can explain why, the feminist theorists seem to say to the feminist artists. So put your clothes back on and wait for us. According to Sedgwick, paranoia's first imperative is, there must be no bad surprises. And the theory Pollock calls for is built to preclude the bad surprise that feminist art does more harm than good. Feminist parody, because it implicitly conserves the conventions of representation it aims to transgress, will always be haunted by feminist art's bad surprise. Despite this, paranoid feminist parody laboriously attempts to transform the not knowing which ambivalence permits into the cool irony of disavowal. If there can be some redemptive quality within feminist parody's ambivalence, theories designed to protect parody from misinterpretation and bad surprises will never find it. Swanson and Schneider, as I've argued, find a multitude of redemptive qualities within feminist parody's innate ambivalence. By embracing incoherence and uncertainty, Swanson and Schneider engage parody with an approach Sedgwick would call reparative. The reparative impulse is one of assemblage and synthesis, which is motivated by a desire to combine disparate parts into something like a whole which may not be precisely identical to that which preceded the reparative work. A reparative theory accepts confusion and discord. Swanson and Schneider's reparative feminist parodies compile divergent conventions and disparate codes, and the resulting work is capable of exploring feminist concerns without simply demonstrating theoretical doctrine. As in Amber and Doll, Swanson sheds the mask of womanliness in which her subjectivity has been sheathed and then rapes it, marries it, takes sexy photos of it, things one generally does to remind the female body that it's an object. To Violate Exotica documents Swanson and Amber Doll's trip to the Exotica Adult Expo in Miami Beach, where Swanson promenaded her doll past vendors promoting everything from sex tapes to sex videos to phone sex. In To Violate Exotica, one of the expo's trademark Exotica hotties straddles Amber Doll's wheelchair and grinds against her. What I find most remarkable about this image is that this woman, who just happens to be working the trade show floor, is more Amber Doll than Amber Swanson will ever be. Swanson is a woman, not a mannequin. She must condition her own body to become Amber Doll's double as much as Amber Doll was manufactured to imitate Swanson. The hottie, on the other hand, embodies the phantasmatic femininity and perpetual sexual availability that Amber Doll can only fake. To Violate Exotica ridicules the young woman grinding against Amber Doll as comfortably as it censures the culture in which a real woman might nearly become a silicone sex doll. Swanson not only exploits the spectacle of this woman's complicit self-objectification, but also exploits the feminist perspective supposed when she presents the image as art with a capital A. Groping at whatever power can be accessed by, in Swanson's words, participating in a cultural narrative that declares women as objects, she both implicates herself for perpetuating this narrative, and reveals how deeply embedded her own identity as a woman, and more importantly as an image maker, is in it. What so much feminist parody produces in theory, Swanson's real doll tethers to the macabre reality of this girl gone wild. And holding feminism accountable for the misogyny recalled by the Exotica hottie or the FBI's To Violate Tailgate welcome is not a matter of exposing feminism's failures or demanding revised modes of representation, for Swanson clearly takes pleasure in creating this work. Carrie Schneider undresses in a forest clearing and makes love to a bed of mulch. She humps the shoreline, She wears a white nightgown and rides a white horse. According to Schneider, these gorgeous images appropriate lusty cultural icons, substituting the male lover with a surrogate from nature. Schneider's critical reception and her own frequent allusion to films and genres of portraiture invite comparison between Schneider's work and Cindy Sherman's untitled film series. But the distinction between each artist's approach to parodic femininity reveals a tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty unique to Schneider's work. Schneider's recession dares the viewer to assume that there is some relationship between women and shopping. And how sexist is that? Maybe Schneider's slouching body poses a Marxist feminist critique and depicts a faltering capitalism, one in which the ideal image that woman is doomed to compulsively consume has become comically deflated. But maybe not. By alluding to feminist cues with such vagueness, Schneider makes her viewer cognizant of the conventions that impact her inclination to read the image as feminist or not. Instead of first announcing that she's launching a feminist critique and requiring the viewer to read the image through her own assumptions about what feminist critique is, Schneider first presents images which do, of course, depict female identity, sexuality, normative femininity, and feminism, and subsequently steps away. One side of the Cusp has feminist parody that's predicated on the disavowal of conventional modes of representation and normative feminine sexuality. That which is problematic to feminism must be cited and subsequently deconstructed or recoiled from with proper indignation. As how-to manuals for feminist practice, paranoid feminist theories regime irony through distanciation in order to manage audience interpretation and safeguard parody against its conservative byproduct, representation. Built to explain how feminist performance citational imperative is critical and not imitative, that the appearance of the female figure is a sort of necessary evil, such theories are unable, or perhaps just unwilling, to account for feminist parody's sincerely ambivalent explorations of self-representation. Swanson and Schneider's work magnifies feminist parody's paradoxical impulse to both transgress and reinforce cultural conventions. Because these images are transparently ambiguous, the viewer becomes aware of the evaluative transactions she makes as she reads the work as feminist or not. Swanson and Schneider's work does not privilege a specific feminist perspective or dutifully ventriloquize a cohesive feminist philosophy. Therefore, Swanson and Schneider are free to acknowledge their own incoherent negotiations of female identity instead of correcting their vision to mirror feminist theory and its prescribed system of inquiry. Refusing to explain away the precariousness of feminist representation, refusing to mediate their creative impulses through an ossified feminist visual vernacular, Swanson and Schneider allow their work to be confused about feminism. Their work proposes a new feminist praxis built not on the I know very well but of disavowal, but on a I don't know maybe, propelling forward an earnest, rigorous, unguarded exploration of contemporary feminist identity.